Walk into the house of the light. Purple dreams in the sludge, turning soft into sharp, and the future is starting to bite.
Time is broken at the manor. Past and present start to bend. One is stuck in the now, one is lost in the then, and the tentacles never end.
Maniac Mansion, next.
Here's Fred and Casey Edison. They're an ordinary married couple, with one difference. They're married with mutants.
Well, now I'm confused.
Uncle Harry's a housefly, and 4-year-old Turner is as big as Dad. The Edisons, an ordinary family in extraordinary situations.
This is great!
It really appealed to the child in me.
Watch the all-new Maniac Mansion, Sunday at 6:30, 5:30 Central, only on the Family Channel.
Can you believe it? We're back!
Father Dowling is sponsored by America's Place to Go for Fish, Long John Silver's.
There is a television show from 1990 that almost nobody outside of Canada talks about. Almost nobody in America remembers, and almost nobody has been able to legally watch in any form since a cable channel called Showcase stopped airing it in Canada in 2002. It is not bad. That's the first thing worth saying. It's actually genuinely strange and frequently brilliant, and occasionally one of the funniest half hours of television from its era. It's called Maniac Mansion, and I have wanted to make this video for a very long time. I am Felix Lebeski. This is SL Tonight. Let's go in.
30 seconds.
What is this show even from? Let's start with the question the title immediately raises for anyone who knows their gaming history. Is this actually based on the 1987 LucasArts computer game? Sort of. Barely. Technically yes. Effectively no. The original Maniac Mansion, the video game, was designed by Ron Gilbert and Gary Winnick and released by Lucasfilm Games in 1987.
Glimmer of a dream to bravely sail uncharted seas, taking chances we ever know. The highs and lows will take the lot, and right before our eyes we'll find happiness and peace of mind. Maniac Mansion.
It was one of the most important adventure games ever made. It introduced the SCUM engine, script creation utility for Maniac Mansion, which would go on to power every LucasArts adventure game through the 1990s. Monkey Island, Day of the Tentacle, Sam and Max, Full Throttle, all of them. SCUM started with Maniac Mansion. The game centered on a teenager named Dave Miller trying to rescue his girlfriend Sandy from the mansion of Dr. Fred Edison, a mad scientist whose family had been corrupted by a sentient meteor in the basement. You could choose from several playable characters with different abilities. The game had multiple endings. It was the first graphic adventure to let you play the villain's daughter as a protagonist. It was radical, funny, and genuinely weird. The TV show kept the mansion, the Edison family, Dr. Fred, the sentient meteor, the name. It changed essentially everything else. The tone, the genre, the specific characters, the setting, the stories, the purpose of the meteor, the nature of the threat, the role of the player characters. The game was a horror comedy about teenagers trapped in a mad scientist's mansion. The show was a warm family sitcom about an eccentric scientist living in a suburban neighborhood. The International House of Mojo, a LucasArts fan site, described the adaptation as so loose that calling it an adaptation gives the word connotations it probably isn't intended to carry. David Fox, one of the lead scripters on the original video game, tweeted a response to a fan who discovered the show, saying, "Sorry you get to see MM on TV. Well, maybe it will have improved with age." That tells you roughly where the game people stood on it.
Maybe you didn't hear me
But
so
here's
good.
the thing, the
These
show
screws,
wasn't
they don't
trying
like
to be
lose
the game.
face. You see what they can do to a worm?
What it was trying to be is much more
That's my
interesting.
babe.
Did you ever think your life was meaningless?
In about 2 minutes it will be, believe me. These crows,
Where it
they play
actually
hardball.
came from.
That you were wasting the
George
talents and
Lucas's
abilities
accidental TV division.
Get a little too deep on me.
By
You
the
know, I
late
like
1980s,
splashing around
George
in the
Lucas
shallow end.
had built Lucasfilm into
What do you
something
think
much
about me?
larger than just a film studio.
getting a job.
He had Industrial Light and
I
Magic,
know what you're
the
gonna say.
premier special effects
We
company
don't
in
need the
Hollywood.
money.
He had Skywalker
But this isn't
Sound.
about
He had
money.
LucasArts, the
It's
games
about
division.
me.
And
And
somewhat unusually
doing
for a
something
film
with my
director of his
life.
stature, he had an
And
active
not
television
being a bum.
production arm, Lucasfilm Limited Television.
Shoot!
Lucasfilm Television had already produced the Ewoks animated series for ABC, the Droids animated series, and
Well,
the Young Indiana Jones
are you
Chronicles was
for
in development.
or again?
George Lucas, to his
Nice
considerable
English.
credit, was not
I say,
precious about his
do the right
properties.
thing.
He experimented, he licensed, he let things go in
Thanks,
unexpected directions.
I knew you'd
When the
understand.
idea came up to develop a Maniac Mansion
Ray,
television
you know
series,
how much I love
Lucasfilm signed on as a co-producer.
Thanks for
The
listening.
first version of
Yeah,
the
I'm a
series
man.
Bible, the document that describes what a show is before you make it, was apparently a fairly straightforward Addams Family / Munsters clone. The Edison family as a bunch of lovable weirdos in a creepy mansion.
Yeah, I'm a man.
That's not what got made.
Bum, bum,
What got made instead
I spell
came
it
from
N.
an entirely different direction. Canadian television system, a group of specific people, and a comedy tradition that most Americans have never fully understood.
Nobody's
Section
got that
3.
many friends.
The SCTV Connection. How a Canadian sketch comedy show built this sitcom.
Sounds bad.
To understand Maniac Mansion, the TV show, you need to understand SCTV. Second City Television, SCTV, debuted on Canadian television in 1976. It was a sketch comedy show built around the fictional programming of a low-rent local TV station in a fictional town called Mellonville.
Self-motivated. That's you.
Sounds weirdly familiar.
Love the
The
outdoors.
concept was meta before
Keep reading.
that was a
You
thing
can work
people
your own
said.
hours. That
The
could
jokes
come
were
in
about the
handy.
fact that
And
you were
all
watching
have to
television,
do is pass up
about the
flyers.
conventions of the medium,
No case.
about the specific textures
Classifieds are for
of
your
bad
wishes
local
and claims.
TV, and cheap
I'm a Ross
commercial
Perot type.
entertainment.
If you want something to happen,
Again,
you
that
gotta
sounds
make it happen
familiar.
yourself.
The cast
What I
that
need
rotated through
is a
SCTV
good
during its
bully.
8-year run reads like a who's who of North American comedy. John Candy, Eugene Levy,
Hi,
Catherine O'Hara,
I'm Adela
Martin
Marcelo.
Short, Rick
And
Moranis,
I'd like to
Harold
talk to all
Ramis,
you Americans
Dave
who
Thomas,
own a business.
Andrea Martin,
Something
and
concrete.
the man
Like
who would
manufacturing.
become the heart of Maniac
Not some
Mansion,
paper company
Joe
where
Flaherty.
everyone does nothing except ride
Martin
their
Short
boats.
later called
I'd
Flaherty
like
the
to join
anchor
that
of
boat. So
SCTV.
would you.
He said, "When I was on SCTV, we used to call him the anchor." In other words, he was the one who anchored the whole show. I relied on him desperately. Flaherty had created some of SCTV's most iconic characters, Guy Caballero, the sleazy station president who moved around in a wheelchair, not from any disability, but simply because it commanded more respect. Sammy Maudlin, the unctuous talk show host, and perhaps most beloved, and I will admit my own personal favorite and the one that kind of inspired this character here, Count Floyd, a cheaply costumed vampire who hosted a horror movie show called Monster Chiller Horror Theater, whose central joke was that the movies he showed were never actually scary, leaving him having to apologize to viewers for films like Dr. Tongue's Evil House of Pancakes. And now you know where the weirdness comes from for this show. When Eugene Levy, another SCTV alumnus, developed Maniac Mansion, he brought the whole extended family with him. The show was created by Levy, Paul Flaherty, Joe's brother, John Hemphill, and Michael Short, Martin Short's brother. Joe Flaherty starred as Dr. Fred Edison.
Really?
Writing credits went to SCTV veterans.
What'd I say?
Directing credits too.
I'm with Harry.
Entertainment Weekly, visiting the set in 1992, wrote that Maniac Mansion was like an SCTV convention. They reported that the place was packed with SCTV veterans at every level of production, actors, writers, directors, key grips. Even the makeup artist was an old SCTV. Time magazine named it one of the 10 best shows of 1990 and called it the looniest, sweetest family comedy of the year. The LA Times described it as David Lynch on helium. SCTV had run from 1976 to 1984. Maniac Mansion premiered in 1990. For 6 years, this particular community of Canadian comedy talent had been looking for a place to go. Maniac Mansion was, in a sense, where they landed.
Done it. Did it. Done it. Do it.
The show itself. What actually happened every episode? The premise, once you get past the video game name confusion, is actually elegant in its specific weirdness. Dr. Fred Edison, played by Joe Flaherty, with a kind of distracted, warm, completely in his own world quality that no one else could have brought, is a scientist and inventor living with his family in a large suburban mansion in the fictional town of Cedar Springs. The mansion has an active meteor in the basement. The meteor is sentient. It occasionally does things. Early in the show's history, the meteor caused two of the family members to be transformed in ways that couldn't be undone. Fred's toddler son, Turner, played by George Booza, who was a very large man, was transformed into the body of an adult with the mind of a 4-year-old. Fred's brother-in-law, Harry Orca, played by John Hemphill, was transformed into a fly with a human head. Both transformations lasted for the entire run of the series. Every episode, Turner as a giant man baby and Harry as a fly. This was never resolved. The show was canceled before Fred found a cure, and the story ended with these two characters permanently changed. Harry the Fly, a man's head on a fly's body, was a practical effects achievement for 1990 Canadian television. They used a combination of an actor in the foreground and puppetry and compositing to make Harry work. By all accounts, it was expensive, complicated, and occasionally maddening to shoot. Producers did it anyway. Every episode for 3 seasons. The family itself. Casey Edison, Fred's wife, played by Deborah Thieker, the pragmatic center of the household, the person holding everything together while her husband accidentally creates sentient weeds in the basement. Tina Edison, teenage genius daughter, played by Kathleen Robertson, pre-Beverly Hills 90210. Kathleen Robertson was the teenage lead of the show. Ike Edison, younger son, played by Avi Phillips. Adele Muckle, Orca, Harry's wife, played by Mary Charlotte Wilcox, a formidable comic actress who grounded the most absurd elements of the show. The format was essentially a standard family sitcom. Domestic problems, neighborhood politics, the kids' school situation, running through a filter of escalating scientific catastrophe. Fred's experiments never went well. The meteor occasionally intervened. Harry gave unsolicited advice from a fly's perspective. Turner wanted ice cream and cookies and hugs. The tone was, as Time correctly identified, sweet rather than dark. Joe's comedy came from warmth rather than cruelty. Nobody in the family was mean. They were all just dealing with an extraordinary situation with the resources available to ordinary people who turned out to be more than enough.
Of course.
The meta episodes and the strange experiments. One of the things that distinguished Maniac Mansion from a standard family sitcom, and that connected it most directly to the SCTV sensibility, was its willingness to break the fourth wall in specific structured ways. The very first episode, the 10th anniversary special, begins with Fred asleep in his lab and dreaming that his family is starring in a sitcom celebrating its 10th anniversary. They watch home movies, They flash back to the accident that created Turner and Harry. Flashback scenes are presented as if they're excerpts from the episodes that never actually aired. The show established in its first episode that the Edisons were performing in a show about themselves, and that the show had apparently been running for 10 years before we started watching. This is genuinely unusual move for a family sitcom. Confident and strange, and says immediately that this isn't going to behave like what it looks like. Later in the run, there are several episodes that operate behind the scenes, where the fiction becomes explicit that the Edisons are playing themselves in a TV show. The series finale, set in the future, features a grown-up Turner, now cured, presumably, with the mind of an adult, as the owner of a television station trying to commission a show about a family exactly like the one he grew up in. Joe was telling you, at the end, that it was the show you were watching. Turner's future TV show is Maniac Mansion. The whole thing was circus, and I love that sort of thing. Joe Flaherty wrote several of these episodes himself. He also directed 4 episodes in the final season. This was a show that its star was invested in well beyond his role in front of the camera. Joe Flaherty and the heart of the film.
He is opening a pizza shop.
Joe Flaherty was born June 21st, 1941 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, son of Irish immigrant parents. Father was a production clerk at Westinghouse Electric. He grew up in Homewood section of Pittsburgh, studied acting at the Pittsburgh Playhouse, served 4 years in the U.S. Air Force, and then moved to Chicago in 1969 to work as a stage manager at Second City. He said of himself, I definitely think of myself as more of an actor than a comic. My training was in drama. I only fell into comedy accidentally.
For my surly behavior these past
which is actually a pretty funny thing to say. That drama training is what you feel in his work on Maniac Mansion. Dr. Fred Edison is a genuinely sweet man. He's not stupid. He's brilliant. He's not careless. He cares enormously. He just operates at a frequency slightly different from the people around him, and the experiments don't go where he expects, and the outcomes are never the ones he planned. Flaherty played all of this with a kind of distracted earnest that made Fred feel real rather than a type. I thought he was probably the best actor in the cast at SCTV. Martin Short. Dave Thomas, another SCTV castmate, called him an adopted son of Canada. Flaherty won the Emmy for Outstanding Writing on SCTV in 1982 and shared the nomination 9 times. He was meticulous and collaborative. On Maniac Mansion, he wrote 6 episodes, directed 4, and served as a producer. He appeared in Back to the Future Part 2 as the Western Union messenger who delivers a 70-year-old letter to Marty McFly. In Happy Gilmore, he was the heckler. Freaks and Geeks, he was Harold Weir, the father, and the performance was so good that Judd Apatow later said it was one of the performances that made the show what it was. Joe Flaherty died April 1st, 2024, from a brief illness. He was 82. And can we just reflect April 1st? Like, damn, I think he probably would have found that fitting. If you haven't watched Maniac Mansion, part of why I'm making this video is to make the case that his performance as Dr. Fred Edison deserves to be seen alongside anything else he did. He was funny and warm and strange in exactly the right proportion. The show doesn't work without him, and it works as well as it does entirely because of him. The cast around him, where they came from, and what they did next. Kathleen Robertson, Tina Edison, teenage genius, went on to Beverly Hills 90210 as Claire Arnold from 1994 to 1997. She became a recognizable face in 1990s American television and film, appearing in Psycho Beach Party, Dog Park, Beautiful Joe, and later recurring in Boss and Hollywood. She was 16 when Maniac Mansion premiered. George Booza, Turner Edison, Man Baby. is a Canadian character actor who has appeared in dozens of film and television productions. He later appeared in X-Men as Beast in the original 1990s animated series, providing the voice that many people consider definitive for that character. He was already a large, physically imposing actor well before Maniac Mansion made him wear a diaper. John Hemphill, Harry the Fly, was one of the co-creators of the show and performed his character under genuinely difficult practical conditions for 3 years. He was also a co-writer and co-director on episodes. He was the Second City, Toronto veteran whose work is criminally underknown outside of Canada. Deborah Seeker, Casey Edison, has had a long career in Canadian film and television. She appeared in This Is Spinal Tap in a small role. Her work as Casey, the grounded, slightly aspirated, deeply loving center of the Edison family, was the emotional anchor of the show in the same way Flaherty described himself being the anchor of SCTV.
Thank you for dressing up
Mary
for
Charlotte Wilcox,
I hope you're going to change before you
Idella
eat the pizza.
Muckle Orca, was an SCTV veteran and one of the most reliable comedy performers in Canadian television ecosystem. She appeared in SCTV in various stage productions and brought a specific kind of unflappable energy to Idella that made Harry's situation feel somehow even more absurd. Dylan Neal joined the show in season 2 as Bo Ridley, the boy next door, and Tina's love interest, and went on to appear in Blood Ties, Days of Our Lives, and Emily Owens, M.D. The music. Jane Seabury and the theme You Can't Get Out of Your Head. The opening theme in Maniac Mansion was composed by Lou Natal and performed by Jane Seabury. Jane Seabury is one of the most interesting and independent figures in Canadian music. Born in Toronto in 1955, she started her recording career in 1981 and developed a reputation for avant-garde folk pop that was completely her own and completely uncompromised. Her 1985 album, The Speckless Guy, and her 1989 album, Bound by the Beauty, established her as a genuinely distinctive voice in Canadian music. She later renamed herself Izza, founded her own label called Sheba Records, and became one of the first musicians to experiment with a pay-what-you-can model for digital download. She was doing this in 2005, before Bandcamp, before Radiohead's In Rainbows experiment made the practice famous. The Maniac Mansion theme is catchy in a specific way that children's television themes from the early 1990s were catchy. It's in your head immediately. It establishes the show's world in 30 seconds, and it sounds nothing like the show's title suggests it should sound. Warm, and slightly bouncy, and faintly mysterious, which is exactly what the show is. And will probably sound nothing like what I actually made. But I digress. Why it was cancelled and why it disappeared. The ratings, the rights, and the vault. Maniac Mansion ran for 3 seasons, 22 episodes in Season 1, 22 in Season 2, 22 in Season 3, 66 episodes total. It was canceled in 1993 after its 3rd season, most likely due to poor ratings in the United States on the Family Channel. This is the key tension at the heart of the show's history. It was a critical success and a cult hit in Canada, where YTV aired it for children and families, and it found its audience. And it was a commercial disappointment in the United States, where the Family Channel couldn't build the viewership it needed to justify renewal. The Family Channel was, in 1990, and that was where I watched it, a distinctly conservative Christian broadcasting outlet founded by Pat Robertson. It later became Fox Family, then ABC Family, then Freeform. In 1990, programming a Canadian SCTV-connected absurdist sitcom with a fly-head character and metatextual episode structures was not an obvious fit for Pat Robertson's audience. Yes, but for the little kids that were forced to watch it, it was great. The surprise is not that it struggled. The surprise is that it ran at all. And yes, because I grew up in a family that this was
just me and Mom.
We share responsibilities. So
We even share
having
clothes.
Maniac
Money's
Mansion
tight.
and other
Everything's
shows
gotta
like
go
it
further.
on
Clothes have
the
gotta
Family
last.
Channel
Wash
may not have been
after
for
wash.
Pat Robertson's audience.
Ultratide has a unique cleaning system that
After
helps wash away many
cancellation, the
tough
show
stains better
continued
than this leading
syndication on the
bargain
Family
detergent.
Channel until
And
1994.
Ultratide helps keep
On
cottons from
YTV
fuzzing.
in Canada
When
until
clothes look great, it's
1997.
like a whole new
On
attitude.
Showcase,
If
a
it's got
Canadian
to be
cable
clean,
channel,
it's
until
got to be
2002.
Tide.
And then
Start
it stopped.
counting. You could be just 14
No
days away
streaming
from
deal has
healthy
ever
looking
been
shiny
made.
hair. That's the
No
promise
complete
of Pantene
DVD
Pro
set
V.
has ever
You
been
brush
released.
and blown away the
No
shine.
digital
Now within just
distribution of
14
any
days, you
kind.
could help bring it back.
The rights
Healthy looking,
situation
shiny
split
hair. That's
between
because
what is now
Pantene's
Disney
Pro-Vitamin
via
conditioning
Lucasfilm
formula
and
keeps working
what
as
is
you
now
use it for
Lionsgate
14
via
days,
Atlantis
helping to
Films
improve
via
the entire length
Atlantis,
of your hair.
Alliance
Just 14
Atlantis
days.
via
You'll see. The more
E1
you use
via
it, the
Hasbro.
better it looks.
And
Pantene
yes,
Pro V for
that
hair
is
so
as
healthy
insane
looking
as it
it
sounds.
shines.
Make
Count on it.
any release complicated.
Yes.
You think?
The most important
Two
part of
major
his life.
corporations would need to agree on terms.
Was
Neither seems to
indisposed.
have any interest in making that happen for a 30-year-old Canadian sitcom with a modest cult following. The only commercially released home video was a Family Channel VHS from 1992 containing 2 first-season episodes. Why Struck? Fred's a Corpse. Sold as Maniac Mansion, The Love Connection. 2 episodes on VHS. That's the entire official commercial release history of 66 episodes of television. What the show got right. The comedy legacy and why it mattered. What Maniac Mansion got right was something that actually quite rare in any era of television. It found a tone and committed to it completely. The tone was sweet, strange, and sincere. Family is real, even when the situation is impossible. Comedy comes from the gap between ordinary domestic life and extraordinary circumstance. But the ordinary domestic life is treated with as much care as the extraordinary circumstance. Fred's relationship with Casey is warm and believable.
You know,
Tina's teenage experience is recognizable. Ike is a kid. Turner, for all the comedy of the situation, is also genuinely treated as a child who needs to be protected and loved. The meta episodes, the ones where the show acknowledges it was a show, worked because the emotional foundation was solid enough to support them. You can break the fourth wall if the audience trusts you. Trust comes from sincerity. This is the SCTV inheritance. SCTV was not a mean show. It was a show about the specific pleasure of loving and mocking the medium simultaneously. The mockery worked because the love was real. Maniac Mansion inherited both. The LA Times called it David Lynch on helium. That's a perfect description. David Lynch, at his best, creates worlds that feel wrong in ways you can't quite name. Uncanny, slightly off, operated by rules you understand only by watching. Maniac Mansion does this as much a lighter, more accessible pitch. The wrongness is warm rather than dark. But the basic operation is similar. You're in a world that's like yours, but not quite, and the show trusts you to live in that space. The video game connection revisited. What Ron Gilbert and Gary Winnick built. A quick note on the source material because it deserves more than a dismissal. The 1987 Maniac Mansion game was genuinely revolutionary. Ron Gilbert and Gary Winnick created it at Lucasfilm's Games, later LucasArts, and it introduced the concepts that shaped adventure game design for a generation. GUM, the script creation utility for Maniac Mansion, eliminated the text parser. Instead of typing open door or take candle, you clicked on verbs arranged at the bottom of the screen and applied them to objects in the world. The interface made the genre accessible to people who had bounced off text adventure. GUM engine ran Monkey Island, Day of the Tentacle, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. Sam & Max hit the road, and every other major LucasArts adventure through the 90s. The game also had multiple endings based on which characters you chose and what you did. Structural ambition that was unusual in 1987. It was funny in a specific, literal way that treated its audience as intelligent. The character Dave Miller choosing between several possible companions, Dave was the only required character, and the others you could mix and match, gave it replay value that most games of its era didn't have. When David Fox described his complicated feelings about the TV adaptation, it wasn't being precious. The game that was carefully designed worked that had its own vision. The TV show was a different vision that happened to use some of the same names. The connection between them is mostly historical. But it's worth understanding what the game was, because understanding it makes it clear what the show chose not to be, and why that was actually the right choice. Making a horror comedy about teenagers trapped in a mad scientist's mansion would have been a very different show, and probably a worse one. The Cult and the Future. Why this show deserves to be found. Maniac Mansion has a modest but devoted cult following, maintained almost entirely through fan uploads on Internet Archive and informal circulation. The fandom is concentrated among Canadian viewers who grew up watching it on YTV, among LucasArts game fans who discovered it through their interest in source material, and among people who found it through the SCTV Flaherty pipeline. The International House of Mojo, the most comprehensive LucasArts fan site, published a detailed retrospective that described the show as deserving of a second look and concluded that it was one of the most downright bizarre developments ever related, however tangentially, to the legacy of its beloved inspiration. Bizarre in a good way. That's the consensus of everyone who actually watches it. The right situation means that a legitimate streaming release is unlikely without someone deciding to put in the work of negotiating between Disney and Lionsgate. That's not impossible, but it's not happening in any visible timeline. What can happen, what I hope this video contributes to, is documentation. The people who made the show are getting older. Joe Flaherty is gone. The window for first-person accounts of what it was like to make Maniac Mansion is not indefinite. Someone should be asking Deborah Thieker and Kathleen Robertson and John Hemphill and George Buza what they remember about those 3 seasons in Toronto. Someone should be looking at the production records that Atlantis Films and Lucasfilm Television must have generated. Someone should be writing down what the show was before people who made it are entirely unavailable to say. That's what this is, a document, a record, a Sultanite's contribution to the preservation of something that deserves to be preserved. Maniac Mansion ran for 66 episodes between 1990 and 1993. It was co-produced by Atlantis Films and Lucasfilms Limited Television. It aired on YTV in Canada and the Family Channel in the United States. It was created by Eugene Levy, Paul Flaherty, John Hemphill, and Michael Short. It starred Joe Flaherty, Deborah Thieker, Kathleen Robertson, Abby Phillips, George Buza, John Hemphill, and Mary Charlotte Wilcox. The theme was composed by Lou Natal and performed by Jane Seager. It was funny. It was warm. It was strange in the best possible way. It never got a proper home video release. It has never been officially available to watch since 2002. And it absolutely deserves to be seen. If you can find it, watch it. If you're a Canadian who grew up with it, tell someone. If you work for Disney or Lionsgate and you have any influence over licensing decisions whatsoever, please do something. The Edison family is still in that mansion in Cedar Springs. Harry is still flying around. Turner still wants some ice cream. Fred is still on the lap. They deserve to be seen. This has been Felix Lebeski for SL Tonight. Stay weird. Good night.